Welcome to this explainer. Listen, if you're looking to plan a trip that takes you completely off the grid, truly away from the crowds, the noise, and all that modern infrastructure, you are in exactly the right place today. We're going to build the ultimate itinerary for the absolute most isolated, untouched corners of the lower 48 states. We're basing our travel guide on a really fascinating list compiled by YouTuber Topo Traveler, which was recently highlighted by unofficial networks. They basically looked at the places where human hands have hardly touched. So grab your notebook, because we are about to map out some serious bucket list travel.
Here's our game plan for today. We'll start with seeking untouched American wilderness, then explore desert canyons and remote waters, head over to the rugged Pacific Northwest, dive into the wild Northern Rockies, check out Wyoming's remote high country, and finally wrap up with choosing your remote adventure.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Seeking Untouched American Wilderness, and the scarcity of true isolation.
So before we start plotting GPS coordinates and packing our gear, we really need to understand the landscape of modern America. The contrast between Alaska and the lower 48 is actually pretty stark. The US is a massive country, right? Huge plots of desert, mountains, forests, marshland. But if you look at Alaska, you'll find plenty of near untouched regions. It's just vast and largely empty. However, when we look at the lower 48, well, the land is much, much more built up. Finding true wild places is incredibly rare now. Even the locations we typically consider remote are often heavily visited by logging operations, commercial hunting, or, some other form of modern industry.
Which leads us directly to this quote from our source material. If you want to get out there and see an area hardly touched by modern humans, well, you really need to work for it. The crucial point here is that true isolation doesn't just happen by accident on a quick weekend road trip. If you want to experience these totally pristine places, you have to be absolutely dedicated to the journey. We're talking meticulous planning, physical endurance, advanced off-trail navigation skills, and packing specialized gear so you can survive totally self-sufficiently. You've got to be willing to push way, way past where the pavement ends.
Moving on to Section 2, Desert Canyons and Remote Waters. Let's talk about escaping the mountains.
So if your idea of a perfect trip doesn't necessarily involve scaling a towering peak, you might want to look toward these intricate geologies and remote waterways. Here we have 3 incredibly isolated destinations. First up, we have the Maze in Utah, right inside Canyonlands National Park. This is a formidable red rock labyrinth that absolutely demands intense map and compass navigation skills, mainly because GPS can often completely fail deep within those canyon walls. Second is the Ojai Canyonlands, a sprawling, super remote desert environment that actually crosses 3 state lines: Oregon, Idaho, and Nevada. And third, shifting to a totally different ecosystem, we have the Boundary Waters up in Minnesota. Now, this area requires some serious upper body endurance for paddling and portaging heavy canoes between lakes, but man, it offers an incredible level of untouched isolation. Next up is Section 3, the rugged Pacific Northwest, focusing on Washington's wild frontiers. Washington State actually holds 2 of the most remote spots in the entire country, the Olympic Mountains and the North Cascades. Now, if you're planning a trip out here, you need to prepare for a rugged, misty, and honestly, often very wet alpine environment. You'll definitely want to pack your heavy-duty, reliable rain gear and plenty of moisture-wicking layers. The dense forests and dramatic elevation changes make these areas famously difficult to traverse. But you know what? That is exactly why they remain so beautifully untouched by human development. All right, let's head to Section 4, the wild Northern Rockies, specifically the Idaho and Montana corridors. Now, what's really interesting here is this single number, 4. Out of Topo Traveler's top 10 most remote locations in the entire lower 48 states, the states of Idaho and Montana are attached to 4 of them. That's almost half. If you're looking for the absolute epicenter of remote travel, this is where you need to book your trip. And here is exactly what makes up that epicenter. We've got the Bob Marshall Wilderness Complex in Montana, the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness straddling both Idaho and Montana, and the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness, located entirely in Idaho. For backpackers seeking endless miles of uninterrupted wilderness, these 3 massive interconnected regions offer just the ultimate multi-week off-grid adventure. Now, because of the massive scale and the dense grizzly populations out there, any trip here requires rigorous bear safety protocols. So you're carrying bear spray, utilizing proper food storage, the whole shebang. You'll also want to target those late summer months so you can avoid the deep, impassable snowpacks. This brings us to Section 5, Wyoming's remote high country and its untouched peaks. Shifting slightly south from Montana and Idaho, we arrive at our final regional destination. Wyoming holds two of these highly elusive spots on the top 10 list: the Winds, which is the Wind River Range, and the Absarokas Range. If you are a traveler looking to truly challenge yourself against formidable, high-altitude isolation, this is absolutely your destination. These are massive, imposing mountain ranges where the air gets thin, the weather can turn on a dime, and the human footprint is virtually non-existent. You will for sure need extensive high-altitude trekking experience to conquer these routes safely. Finally, we reach Section 6, choosing your remote adventure and mapping your bucket list. Okay, here is your complete trip planning matrix. This handy reference compiles all 10 of Topo Traveler's most remote locations into one easy-to-read guide. Honestly, I highly recommend taking a quick screenshot of this right now so you have it handy. You can see the locations, the states they reside in, and the region category we just discussed, everything from desert canyons to the high country. Having this structured view is really going to help you decide which region to tackle first based on your own specific travel style, whether that's paddling through Minnesota, navigating the red rocks of Utah, or surviving the rugged elevations of Wyoming. It's all right here. So we've seen that true, untouched isolation really does still exist in the lower 48. But as we learned today, you have to be willing to put in the immense work to reach it. Knowing that these pristine environments require serious dedication, preparation, and respect, which of these rare, untouched American landscapes will be your next adventure? It is time to pull out the maps, start checking your gear, and get planning. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, maybe I'll see you out on the trail.